Quick for me. I was.
Okay.
I wasn't. Okay.
Okay. So hello everyone. My name is Barbara. I'm one of the IMGs at Great Ormond Street Hospital. But I'm also one of the soft landing reps. And tonight we got a very special guest from the BMA, Tim Cumbly. Thank you very much for joining us. And we are here because tomorrow we will have another round of strikes organized by the British Medical Association. And I think it's specifically it is tricky sometimes for IMGs. We are not really sure about this. We are not really sure what we should do. We are not sure if we are not members of BMA, what should we do? So, Tim, please tell us everything that we need to know.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's really great to be able to present to you and give you this information that you need because it's really, really important information. Deciding whether or not to strike is can be a very difficult decision, especially for IMGs, international medical graduates, because you do have some unique concerns to take into account. So, what we're going to do, I'm going to give a very brief overview of why we're striking. Then I'll go through some of the um, things you need to consider before you go on strike, and I'll go through a bit more about what will happen on the strike day tomorrow. So, if my slides
Tim,
will
can I
work.
just start? So, if anyone has any question in the meantime, can you just pop it in the chat box and we will ask questions in the end? Thank you.
Yeah, please do ask questions as we go along. So we'll have a bit of the Q&A at the end, so pop them in the chat. So this is why we're striking. This is an old graph. This is from 21, 22. And at that point, junior doctor pay erosion amounted to 26% from the previous 15 years. So to say that a junior doctor was worth 26% less today than they were back in 2008 is simply ludicrous. So we called on the government to enter into negotiations. Unfortunately, the government refused to do so. These negotiations were to address the pay erosion and give junior doctors pay restoration. So this isn't a pay increase. This is simply addressing the pay erosion that has happened over the last 15 years. So long story short, the government refused to negotiate with us. So we began striking. Well, we balloted our members, and our members indicated that they wanted to strike. And we began our strikes in March 2023, last year. And since then, we've had multiple rounds of strikes, I think 10 rounds of strikes going into our 11th. And this is what those strikes have achieved so far. So before strike action, there would have been a 3.5% increase for junior doctors. And the last offer that we got was a 12% increase as an average across all junior doctor grades, which was rejected by the Junior Doctors Committee because it's not full pay restoration. So that's why it was rejected. So in between those offers, the first one and the most recent one, there have been other offers. But each time the government has made an offer to us, they've said, that's it. We've got no more money. That's the final offer. Each time it's been rejected, and each time they have increased their offer. So that's why we know that they can afford full pay restoration, and that's why we continue to strike. So the next round of strikes, well, it begins tomorrow, 7 a.m. tomorrow. So it's unfortunate that we have to strike. We were actually expecting an offer from the government. But there's a cruel irony here in that because the general election was called, that's why talks fell through. Now, I think most people in the country would agree that we're long overdue general election, seeing as the last two prime ministers have been put in place not through a general election. So, in the interest of democracy, we're very much due a general election, but it has meant that negotiations with the government have been delayed. We enter into these negotiations on the understanding that if they fall through, we will strike. That's where our leverage comes from. That's where our power comes from. And because the talks have fallen through no fault of our own, that's why we have to strike. So I often get asked this, can you strike as an IMG? And the short answer is yes. Yes, you can. Absolutely. You have the same rights and privileges to strike as any other doctor in the UK. But like we said at the start, there are some unique concerns and implications for IMGs. So that's what we're going to go through tonight to make sure that you're aware of them so you can make an informed decision on whether or not to strike. So, yes, absolutely, you can strike. However, if you are working in the UK on a health and care visa under a certificate of sponsorship from a licensed sponsor, you need to consider the impact of unpaid leave, unauthorized absences, and a reduction in pay on your visa sponsorship and on your leave to remain. So, under certain visas, there is a rule that that sponsorship can be terminated if you take more than 28 days unpaid leave in a calendar year. However, industrial action is exempt from this. Your employer is within their right to withhold pay for days you have gone on strike. However, if you have annual leave booked, 0 days or study leave scheduled for strike days, please continue with those, and you should not have your pay deducted. So one thing I should add at this point as well. So I've used two terms here interchangeably. I've used the term industrial action and I've used the term strike action. I don't want to confuse things, so I must just add that strike action is a form of industrial action. There are other forms of industrial action, but the most common one, the most recognizable one, is the one that we're doing, is a full walkout. So where you simply don't, where you withdraw your labour. So like I said, these terms, I've been using them interchangeably, but just so you're aware that when I say industrial action, I mean, oh, sorry, excuse me. When I say industrial action, I mean strike action. So unauthorized absences over 10 consecutive days. If you're absent from work for 10 consecutive days or more without permission, your employer may be required to notify the Home Office of this absence. The Home Office will consider if further action is required. However, the good news for you is that the BMA has never had a strike for 10 consecutive days or more, and nor will we ever have a strike for 10 consecutive days or more. We obviously understand that this dispute very much includes international medical graduates. You're part of the workforce, no different to a doctor that has graduated here. So we will never take part in any sort of industrial action that would put that would put your presence here at risk. So we will never strike for more than 10 consecutive days, so that you can be included as well. Now, if you're on a tier 5 visa, there may be direct impacts from taking industrial action. Should salary be reduced below the national minimum wage level as a result of industrial action, then the sponsor will need to conduct a report notifying the Home Office that this is the case. Medical academies, these are the sponsors of tier 5 visas, have confirmed that participating in legally organised industrial action is a permitted absence for doctors on a tier 5 visa. And the sponsor would only need to report this if industrial action brought a doctor's pay below the national minimum wage. Now, one term that I used there, I really want to hone in on, legally organized industrial action. So everything we are doing here is absolutely legal. There's lots and lots of legislation governing industrial action in the UK, and we follow it to the book. We will never do anything unlawful. So some of those rules are around balloting. So we can only take part in that industrial action if we've balloted our members and met certain thresholds, which we absolutely have. Another rule is that we need to give at least 2 weeks notice to the trust before we take part in the industrial action. And we've always done that. We've always given at least 2 weeks notice. In reality, we usually give 3 or 4 weeks notice. And in that time, it is the responsibility of the trust to get the cover to provide the care to the patients. So just to reiterate that if you strike, then that is perfectly legal. You will not face any legal action as a result of you striking. So, assuming you have chosen to strike, on the day of the strikes, do not begin any shift that starts within the strike period. Finish a shift if it started before the strike period and ends after the beginning of the strike period. So, say, for example, just for argument's sake, you begin a shift at midnight tonight and then it finishes at 8 o'clock tomorrow. That is after the start of the strike. So, the strike begins at 7. If you finish at 8, please do finish that shift. So start it at midnight and then finish at 8 a.m. Just as an example. You do not have to inform anyone of your intention to strike. So something that I hear a lot is rota coordinators saying, look, I understand that you've got strikes coming up. You're perfectly allowed to strike. However, we need to know who's going to be on the wards that day. Please, can you tell us if you're striking? Now, that might seem perfectly reasonable. However, it could also feel, like you're being pressurized to come in. Not overt pressure, but I feel that that's pressure nonetheless. So, in that situation, I mean, to be honest, it's a bit late now. This moment's probably already passed. But if there are subsequent rounds of strikes, what I'll do in that situation is simply say that you haven't decided whether or not you're going to strike. And that's perfectly reasonable. And you are perfectly within your rights to say that. Just say you're undecided. Now, the hospital may ask those who are on call in the evening to come in during the day. If you are asked and you're a junior doctor, you can refuse. The BMA will support any doctor who is feeling pressured to work. If you feel you're being pressured, please contact us as soon as possible. And like I said, the right to take industrial action is protected by UK employment law. So again, on the day of the strikes, so this is tomorrow, we have our national rally at 2:30 in the afternoon. I think doctors are going to start getting there from 2 o'clock, and we are really, really encouraging you to get down there if you can. The visual impact of these rallies are really, really important. All the media is going to be there. There's going to be interviews with our reps from the Junior Doctors Committee. The first one we had, it was on Whitehall back in March 2023. The police told us that there was 5,000 in attendance. Now, I was at this rally, and I can say from my perspective, the optics of that are absolutely fantastic. It really shows how much support is there, and it's a show of force as well. It shows that the government that we are, junior doctors are very much passionate about this dispute and are determined to get full pay restoration. So please, if you're around, come down to Whitehall. If you're not familiar with that particular part of London, it's very central. It's the road that connects Trafalgar Square to the Houses of Parliament, and it goes straight past 10 Downing Street. You can pretty much see 10 Downing Street from the road there. So very iconic place. And very symbolic. It's the heart of politics in this country, really. So that's why we're going to be there. And we would love for you to join us. So it is your choice to strike. I've touched on this already. And you do not have to reveal whether or not you do strike. We very much recommend that you do strike. So a full walkout is very impactful. If not that many doctors strike, the only thing it does really is just prolong this, because we need that impact. We need the disruption there. By having marginal walkouts, then if the only thing that serves to do is to just prolong this, because then we need subsequent strikes afterwards. So the most impact is if everyone walks out. So if you want this to be solved quickly, then please do go on strike. But however, it is your choice. and you don't have to reveal it to anyone. So I do understand that IMGs have these unique concerns, especially if you're particularly new to the UK. I understand that you haven't come here to go on strike. So you've come here to work in the NHS, which benefits us and it benefits you as well. I completely understand that. So you don't have to strike if you don't want to. But the best way to support it is to be a member of the BMA. And being a member of the BMA is not a commitment to strike. You can be a member of the BMA and choose not to strike if you don't feel that is right for you. Similarly, if we have any reballots every 6 months, we have to reballot and to continue that strike action. And if you vote in those ballots for strike action, that itself is not a commitment to strike either. And I think we've gone over this quite a lot. You don't have to reveal to anyone whether or not you are striking. You don't have to reveal if you're a member of the trade union or how you will vote in any ballots or referendums. Now, I touched on they're really important to be a member of the BMA. The more members we have, the stronger we are as a union. We are not just about pay. We cover everything to do with the medical profession. We are your representatives. We lobby the government for much needed improvements to the medical profession. When we're lobbying the government, the more members we have, the stronger we are as a union, the stronger you are as a profession. More members means a better bargaining position for us. And like I said, we can be more effective. So do not underestimate the significance of your membership. We have almost 200,000 members, which is really great. Like I said, that massively improves our bargaining position. And I'll talk a bit in a second about how you can join if you are not already a member. I barely scratched the surface in terms of what we do. So I would suggest that after this, have a look on the website to get a better idea of all the other things that we do. I don't have time to go through everything today because, yeah, like I said, there's just so much that we do. Now, if you're not a member of the BMA and you'd like to join, if you're particularly new to the UK, so if you have been here less than 12 months, then it's completely free to join for your first year. All you need to do is scan that QR code and select the concession new to the UK. It will only work if you scan that QR code, so please scan that when you're joining. Don't go to other areas of the website. You need to stay on that page, select the concession new to the UK. If you've been here longer than 12 months, we've actually got our summer offer where it will be free for the first 3 months. So really great time to join. Whether you're new to the UK or not, then you'll get either a year or 3 months for free. So scan that QR code. I'll also post a link in the chat. But yeah, for the moment, I'll happily take any questions you might have.
Thank you so much, Tim. I think that was concentrated on the most important thing. So the main message is you don't have to say if you strike or not. Even if they ask you, you can say you are not sure. But what happens if I decided to strike but I'm not a BMA member? Does it actually count?
Well, yeah, it very much counts because you're adding to that impact. And yes, something that I need to go over is that you do not need to be a member to strike. However, it's very, very much recommended you do. So you shouldn't face any disciplinary issues from striking, but sometimes trusts and management like to flex their muscles a bit and maybe threaten it. Like I said, you shouldn't face any disciplinary issues. However, if you do face disciplinary issues, if you're a member of the BMA, we will give you all the support and representation that you need through our employment advisors. If there is any disciplinary hearing, we will represent you. We will be there in that hearing with you to represent you if you're a member of the BMA. Now, this is very unlikely to happen because, like I said, you're very much within your rights to strike. But on the off chance it does happen, it's good to be a BMA member because if you are, we can represent you. If you're not, then unfortunately, we can't. The other thing is, which is more likely to happen, you might just have some questions about it that you need some clarification on. If you're a member, you can contact us and we can give you that information. Unfortunately, we can't help doctors who aren't our members. So, yeah, you don't have to, but it's very much recommended that you are.
Perfect. So another question, you said 10 consecutive days are okay, or after 10 days are not okay. What if I already had a few strikes this year? Should I be worried because will they count and will they do something just because I've done already 4 days, another 4 days, it's coming up to 10 days. It should not be a problem, right?
Yeah, so that for that particular rule, it's consecutive days. So if you've gone on previous strikes, then no, it's fine because it's reset. It's consecutive. You can't take unauthorized absence for more than 10 consecutive days. So that's fine. Sorry, Bob, you were just on mute there.
I know my computer is really slow. So what would you recommend to those who are not BMA members yet and they feel that they've been pressured by the strike, or even if they strike, a consultant comes to them and they just have a little word. Who should they contact about their concerns?
Yeah, definitely join the BMA. Like we said, it's free.
But they
So
are not. If they are not and they're striking from tomorrow, they have another chance to join BMA and someone will be just nasty with them. What should they
yeah,
do?
absolutely. In that case, that's why it's really important to join as early as possible because we can only give help and representation for cases that have started since being a member of the BMA. So if you feel pressured, join tonight before tomorrow, and then we'll be able to help you. Let us know if any consultants. Well, so I did see another question in the chat about consultants. So in general, consultants have been extremely supportive of the strikes and supportive of the junior doctors. Because don't forget, it wasn't that long ago that consultants were juniors as well. Well, for some consultants anyway. So a lot of consultants were on junior doctors back in 2016, and we had industrial action there as well. So they're very much sympathetic to this cause. So yeah, if you feel pressured by anyone, it's not just consultants, it might be a rota coordinator, it might be other management. Please get in touch with the BMA as soon as possible. And that's why it's important to be a BMA member as soon as possible. So just looking at
Few
a
questions
couple
in the
of
chat box,
questions.
exactly.
Yes. So one question about career progression. Are consultants generally supportive? And yep, they are. And they did not strike for very long. Yeah, that's an interesting point. And it's something that needs to be said that there's been different disputes for the different branches of practice because there's different contracts. So junior doctors, consultants, SAS doctors, and GPs are all on different contracts. So the dispute is different. Consultants solved their dispute fairly quickly, and they had really good pay uplift. The reason is because it's a different dispute, then things are discussed in a different way. So exactly what was discussed with consultants, and I'm not part of these negotiations, so I can't give any detail around that. However, because it's a different dispute, one doesn't necessarily impact the other. So that's why the consultants didn't strike for long. Same for SAS doctors. And this is something I should really point out as well. If anyone here is on the SAS contract, you're not a junior doctor and therefore you cannot strike. Please, if you're on the SAS contract, do not strike because you will get in trouble. So only if you're on the junior doctor contract can you strike because that's who the dispute concerns. So another question is, webinar for the benefits of being a member of the BMA needs to be organized. Yeah, absolutely. Look, I tell you what, if you want, get in touch with me privately. I'll put my email address in the chat. And then perhaps, whatever trust you're at, then maybe we can organize that. So, another question, part of that is if you're in the BMA, you still need to subscribe to the Medical Defence Union? This is something I get asked a lot, and there's a lot of confusion around this, and I completely understand why. We are very different to the MDU, and there are other indemnity insurers available, MPS and forgotten what the other main one is, MDU, MPS, and someone else. So they are indemnity insurers. And there's no crossover at all. But I understand the confusion because we're your trade union and then the Medical Defence Union. So to put it simply, the likes of MDU, MPS, other indemnity insurers are to do with anything patient related. We're to do with anything employment related. Now, to use a really, really crude example, and apologies for this, but if you were to accidentally cut a limb off one of your patients, you would go to the MDU and they would cover that, and you would be covered by indemnity insurance. However, if you were to ask for annual leave and it's not granted, but you feel it should be, that's an employment issue, and you would come to us for advice. Anything more complex as well, things like you might feel like you're being bullied at work or harassed by management, a colleague, whoever it might be. Again, an employment issue, you come to us. Questions about pay, your contract, if you're working to a rota, anything like that, you come to us because it's an employment issue. Now, we are recognized as your trade union. That means we have bargaining rights on your contract. So the junior doctor contract is a result of negotiations between us and the government. We cover all aspects of your contract. So all your terms and conditions go through us. Again, this is all employment related. So that's where our influence lies, is that we have those bargaining rights, and the MDU have nothing to do with that, basically. Very good people at the MDU. We do a lot of work with them. And also you have to have indemnity insurance to practice. So do be a member of the BMA as well as MDU or MPS or someone else.
I have a few questions about the timing of the strike tomorrow. Is it because of the elections?
Yeah, quite simply. So this has come up a lot over the last few weeks. So as I said at the start, we go into these negotiations under the understanding that they need to be solved as quickly as possible, because if they fall through, we will go on strike. So there's three main reasons why we're striking at this time. The first one, like I just said, we're forced into it. The negotiations fell through no fault of our own. So that's why we're striking. I don't want to sound too incendiary and provocative here, but it's also something of a, I hate to use the word, but it's something of a punishment to the current government that you've had a long time to sort this out. This dates back, this dispute formally started in October 2022. You had a chance to avoid these strikes by entering into negotiations with us then. The fact it's taken us this long means that you calling a general election means that we're forced to go on strike. And it also sends a clear message to the next government. Now, the vast majority of the polls are indicating that will be a Labour government. So let's just, for argument's sake, assume that we will get a completely new government next week. It sends a clear message to them. This is what you're entering into. We will go on strike. We can mobilize. And we will use that leverage. So that's why we're timing our strikes now.
And one more question about clinical fellows. I kind of answered the questions. A clinical fellow is a junior doctor, but remember I asked this question before. So the junior doctor strike, is it mainly for the grid and the in-training junior doctors? Will it affect the clinical fellows' salary, whose are slightly different as they are not in training?
Yes, so they're still on the junior doctor contract. So you don't yet. So they're still included in this. So anyone included in this will, yeah, is yeah, it is part of the dispute and therefore can strike.
Can strike means that when the strike is effective, will it increase the salary of the clinical fellows too, or just the junior doctors who's in training?
Yeah, absolutely. So anyone on the junior doctor contract, this dispute is about them and their contract. So yeah, absolutely. It's not just foundation doctors. It's not just your STCTs. It's everyone under the junior doctor contract. So everyone under the junior doctor contract will benefit from a pay uplift from this.
Thank you. And I'm just reading if there's any more question. Will the trust increase the rate of pay in line with any increase of the trainees? So benefit to locally employed doctors as well as deanery employed doctors?
Yeah, sure. So, what you find with most locally employed doctor contracts is that they do mirror national contracts, pretty much the same. So, we would expect that any agreement to a national contract will positively benefit a locally employed doctor contract as well. So I just put my email address in the chat there. So there was a doctor earlier asking about, uh, another webinar for the wider benefits of the BMA. Please get in contact with me privately. We can see what trust you work at and look at putting another webinar on there. And also any other questions you might have. Perhaps you didn't want to ask them here or something you think of later, please get in touch with me. And yeah, if there's any more questions, happy to answer
I
them then.
just wanted to do one more question because
Sure.
I think for the first time, if you strike, it's very weird what to do. So obviously, if you decide to strike, you do not go to work, but you get another option. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the picket line, what it is, who needs to go there? What if someone from the media asks you any question when you are in the picket line? What does it mean? Do you have to do that? Just tell us a little bit more about the practicality of how to strike.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So if your trust is doing a picket, not all of them are. So it might be best checking if you've got any colleagues or if you know your local BMA rep, double check to see if there is a picket line. So the big one tomorrow, the big picket line in the morning is at I think it's St. Thomas's Hospital. Sorry, excuse me. Excuse me, I've been talking too much today. Yeah, so if your trust is having a picket line, please do attend that if you can. Again, it's a really good way to have that visual impact to show the support that we have for this strike. If someone from the media contacts you, sorry, excuse me, just going to take another swig. My apologies for that. Like I said, I've been talking too much. If you're at a picket line or at the national rally and a member of the media contacts you or comes up to you, please refer them over to one of the BMA reps. This isn't because we don't want you to have your say. We're certainly not trying to silence our members. Absolutely not. The reason we've done this is we've invested a lot of time into giving our junior doctor reps media training because I personally certainly wouldn't want to. You might be able to speak very well about the junior doctor pay dispute and why you're striking to your colleagues, to your family, to your friends. But when you have a professional interviewer in front of you, and a camera shoved in your face, that really changes the dynamic quite a lot. And it can be quite intimidating. However, all our junior doctor reps are media trained. They've done this 100 times before. And what we've seen in the media so far is that our reps have just been outstanding at being able to get our point put forward in an eloquent and concise way. So there will be our member reps on the picket lines and on the rally speaking to the media. So if the media approach you, please refer the media to the rep.
Thank you so much. I think we need to let you go because you need your voice for the next 4 days, probably a lot.
Yeah, there is just one other question there that I'll answer.
Am I allowed to picket line only in my trust or in a national rally, not in other trusts? So the question, and someone would ask, so you can picket line at any trust. Is that right?
Yeah, do go down and go to the picket line at any trusts, because sometimes, you might have a trust closer to you than your actual place of work. And it will be more convenient for you to go there for whatever reason it might be, or you might have friends at another trust that you want to join. Yeah, you can go and join that picket line. But what I would suggest is please just double check that there will be a picket line at the trust you want to go to, because some trusts aren't having a picket line. I wouldn't want you to go there and it'd be a waste of time.
Do you have any WhatsApp group that you can invite people to, or can they join? Because I remember last year strikes had WhatsApp groups that was very helpful in terms of knowing where to go, what to do. But if you're not, then what I would suggest to everyone, let's just send around questions in your trusts and ask if there's any WhatsApp group, what do they know about it? I felt very lost. My personal experience was I felt very lost on the day of the strike in the morning, knowing, okay, so I decided to strike. So what do I do? Where do I go? And the WhatsApp group really helped. That was my impression. But if you have any, because I remember BMA had some organized WhatsApp group as South Thames and North Thames. Am I wrong, Tim?
Yeah, each individual trust, and I think actually each individual hospital has their own local strike WhatsApp group.
But not BMA.
Oh no, so these are, yes, sorry, I should say these are BMA groups, but for each individual hospital. And then there is also regional WhatsApp groups.
And how can we join those WhatsApp groups?
So joining them now might be a bit tricky. I don't know how we could do that over Zoom. What would probably be best is, if you have any other colleagues or WhatsApp groups that you're part of already, get in touch with them. Sorry, that's all I can really suggest at the moment, because and also not knowing where each individual doctor who has attended this webinar tonight, I don't know where you work, I'm afraid. So I couldn't direct you to the right place, because like I said, because it's each individual hospital. I would suggest
asking around,
exactly.
and find WhatsApp groups where you can join. And if you decide, please support the picket lines. I think if you do support the strike, then I think it's nice to support the picket line. By any means, I'm not asking anyone to strike. I'm not BMA, remember? We just wanted to organize this webinar. So you decide after knowing all the information if you want to strike or not, because I think it was very tricky. So if there's no other question, so basically don't say anyone if you don't want to that you're striking or not. If you decide to strike, ask around in the WhatsApp group, where is your hospital WhatsApp group. If you want to strike, support your picket line, go to the rally tomorrow, and join BMA if you decide to join, because it's free if it's your first year in the UK. Have I summarized it correctly, Tim?
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't have put it better myself. And also, if like I said, even if you have been in the UK longer than 12 months, we do have our summer offer where it's free to join for the first 3 months. And I'm just putting in that link again into the chat. So no matter who you are, it's currently free to join. And I'd just like to say thank you very much for having me tonight. Hope it's been useful for everyone.
I think it was, and it seems like we need to get another webinar with BMA about all the benefits that BMA can offer to any doctor, but specifically IMGs, because I think there are actually a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. More than happy to do that.